I still remember that night like it was yesterday. The rain was pounding against my car windshield, the city lights blurring through the downpour as if the world itself was weeping. I had just returned from a long, exhausting shift at work, the kind of night where silence becomes your only company. My apartment, usually my place of peace, was the one thing I looked forward to. But as I pushed open the door and stepped inside, I froze. There she was, sitting on my couch, drenched, shivering, her eyes red from crying, my ex's mother. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. Her hands were clasped together tightly, her shoulders trembling under the faint golden light of my living room lamp. She looked up at me, her lips trembling before she whispered, almost breaking, "I needed somewhere to go. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your small act of support helps us keep bringing you stories that remind us all of the beauty in broken hearts." I hadn't seen her in nearly 3 years, not since the night everything ended between her daughter Emily and me. Back then, she used to treat me like family. She was the kind of woman who always offered warm hugs and even warmer meals, who made me feel like I belonged somewhere. But after Emily and I broke up, it was as if that entire family had vanished from my world. I never blamed them. I had made my mistakes. We both had. Yet now, seeing her there, fragile, lost and alone, stirred something deep inside me. The hurt, the nostalgia, the quiet ache of unfinished goodbyes. I helped her to her feet and noticed the small suitcase by her side, soaked through from the rain. Her eyes darted away when I asked if she was okay, as though she couldn't bear to speak the truth. She looked thinner than I remembered, her once confident posture now replaced by a quiet, defeated slump. That night, I made her tea, gave her my warmest blanket, and let her sit by the heater while I tried to make sense of it all. She didn't talk much, just sat there staring into the distance. But after a long silence, she began to speak in a voice so soft I could barely hear her. She told me she had lost her house. Her husband, who had always seemed strong and proud, had left her for another woman. The life she had built, the home she had filled with laughter and family dinners, was gone. And in that moment of hopelessness, she had nowhere else to go but to the one person she never thought she'd see again. I didn't know what to say. I just listened. Sometimes that's all people need. The rain outside turned into a gentle drizzle, and the city quieted down as she spoke. She told me she had thought of calling Emily, but they hadn't spoken in months. There had been an argument, something about her new boyfriend and the choices Emily was making. I could see the pain in her eyes when she spoke about her daughter, the regret, the worry, the longing. And as strange as it felt, I realized I still cared about both of them. Despite everything that had happened between Emily and me, I couldn't erase the years we shared or the family that had once felt like my own. Over the next few days, she stayed with me. I made her breakfast in the mornings and we'd talk over coffee about simple things, the weather, the neighbors, the past. Slowly, the walls between us began to crumble. There were moments when I'd catch her smiling faintly, moments when the heaviness in her eyes would fade, even for a heartbeat. But every night when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd sit quietly on the couch and stare at her phone, waiting for a message that never came. From Emily. It broke my heart. Because I knew exactly how that felt, to wait for someone who had moved on. One afternoon, I came home early from work and found her in the kitchen, cooking. The smell of roasted vegetables and garlic filled the air, the kind of scent that instantly took me back years, to the nights when Emily and I would have dinner with her family, laughing about nothing, believing the world was kind. She looked up when she saw me, a little embarrassed, saying she just wanted to thank me somehow. But I didn't need thanks. The truth was, having her around made the place feel less empty. As the days went by, she opened up more. She told me stories I'd never heard before, how Emily used to sit by her side as a little girl, promising she'd never leave her. How she missed that version of her daughter, the one who still believed her mother could fix everything. One night, after dinner, she handed me her phone. It was a message she'd been drafting but hadn't sent. It said, "Emily, I'm sorry, I miss you. I just want to talk." She looked at me with tearful eyes and asked if I thought she should send it. I told her she should. Sometimes pride is just pain wearing armor. She hit send. The next few days were quiet again. No reply. I saw the disappointment in her face, the kind of sadness that sits in silence and doesn't need words. But one evening, just as the sun was setting, her phone buzzed. It was Emily. The message was simple: "Where are you?" Her hands trembled as she read it aloud. She looked at me, her lips trembling, and whispered, "What do I even say?" I smiled and said, "Tell her the truth." That night, Emily came. I won't lie, seeing her again after all that time hit me like a wave. She looked different, older somehow, more guarded. Our eyes met briefly, and I could feel the weight of all the unspoken things between us. But this wasn't about us anymore. This was about a mother and daughter who had both lost their way back to each other. When Emily saw her mother sitting there on my couch, she froze. The air between them was heavy, thick with history and regret. Her mother started crying first, silent tears that seemed to carry years of hurt. Emily just stood there at first, her eyes glassy, until finally she broke. She ran into her mother's arms, and they held each other for what felt like forever. It was one of the most beautiful and painful things I'd ever witnessed. They talked for hours that night. I stayed in the kitchen, giving them space, listening to their muffled voices through the wall. Sometimes there was laughter, sometimes there was crying, but by the time the night ended, there was peace. In the following days, Emily started visiting more often. She helped her mother find a new apartment, and slowly life began to fall into place again. Watching them rebuild their relationship was healing, even for me. It reminded me that love doesn't disappear, it just gets buried under pain until someone is brave enough to dig it out. And somewhere in the middle of all this, Emily and I found closure too. We talked, not about getting back together, but about forgiveness. She admitted that leaving me had been hard, that she had blamed me for things that weren't entirely my fault. I told her I had held on to resentment for too long, and in that quiet conversation, we let go. Her mother moved into a small apartment a few blocks away. I helped her set up the furniture, fix the curtains, and get settled in. When I left that evening, she hugged me tightly and whispered, "You were the only one who didn't turn me away. I won't forget that." Months passed, and life moved on. I started focusing on myself again, on healing, on learning that kindness isn't weakness. Sometimes I'd still get a text from her mother, thanking me, or sharing photos of her and Emily smiling together. It always made me smile back. Looking back now, I realized that night when she showed up at my door wasn't a coincidence. It was life's strange way of teaching me that compassion doesn't have to end where pain begins. Sometimes helping someone else heal can help you find your own peace. If this story touched your heart, even just a little, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world and helps these real emotional stories reach more people who might need them. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever reconnected with someone from your past in a way that changed your heart forever? Because sometimes the people we least expect to walk back into our lives end up being the ones who remind us that kindness is never wasted, and that forgiveness, even when it comes late, is still beautiful.